What up, what up? Welcome on into Inside Baylor Sports, the official daily podcast of Baylor Athletics. On today's show, where we look back on the weekend that was with Baylor Softball and Baylor Baseball. Baylor Softball, they brought out the brooms to Provo, Utah with them. Also, Baylor men's and women's tennis gets selected to the 2024 NCAA Tournament. Don't forget, you can catch Inside Baylor Sports every weekday. You can also watch the video version for free over at BaylorPlus.com and on the Baylor Athletics YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, rate, and review the pod, and follow Baylor Plus today on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It's the official content network of Baylor Athletics. Think Netflix for your Baylor Bears. Download the app on your mobile device and sign up for your free 7-day trial today at BaylorPlus.com. It's Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. Justin Hoff alongside Corey Bolts. And Corey, you enjoyed some of that mountain air, right? You were out in Provo, and you brought the brooms with you.
We brought the brooms with us. Yeah, that was my first time in Utah, Justin. So it was fun to experience the beauty. It was gorgeous up there. And I just found myself staring at the mountains, and some of the mountains were still snow-capped, and it was beautiful. Our first day was the best weather because it was mild, but the rest of those days were cold and rainy. So I didn't love that too much, but I did love that we swept BYU and came out victorious in that conference series. So that was pretty awesome to be able to experience with the team and also see somewhere new.
I was in West Virginia, of course, with acrobatics and tumbling. I had the hills, and you had the legit mountains. I mean,
legit.
There's parts of West Virginia that are pretty mountainous, but not up in the Morgantown area. It's a lot of hills. But you're talking about some Rocky Mountains out there.
It was gorgeous. And the people that, shout out to whoever decided to build their athletic facilities in the way that they did them. But the views in those athletic facilities are phenomenal. Now, I will say, Justin, softball got the short hand of the stick a little bit because the baseball view is just directly looking at this mountain. Softball, you don't really get as good of a view, but you see some of it because the football facility takes up some of those sight lines. But man, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I don't know how you don't. I walked into center field of the softball stadium, and it looks into the baseball stadium and then into the mountains. And I told Coach Newman, because she and I were both walking it just to take all of it in before one of the games. I said, Coach Newman, I don't know if I'm the center fielder, how I'm paying attention on the game. Like, I would be so distracted by the beauty and just seeing the masterpiece that the Lord created. But it was really, really awesome. I don't love the fact, though, that it was so cold in the middle to late of April. I mean, man, I would have given anything for the Texas weather up there. But a lot of our team hadn't been in the mountains, hadn't experienced something like that. So it was awesome for everybody to be able to enjoy that. And we did really well with the altitude. Our nutritionist and athletic trainer got us ready, so we were good to go there. But yeah, it was really, really, really cool. It'll be fun to be able to visit there occasionally now that they're in the conference.
I was going to say, Corey, you can't have it all, right? You know, in terms of the weather and
I know.
And I don't know about you, I love Texas. Okay, I love the heat. I'm perfectly fine with flat because you start to go hills like Morgantown, which I've lived there before, and you get 1 inch of snow. And it's very, very dangerous to go down the hill. Almost you can't do it, right? And so
you
think about BYU. Yeah, those are great places to go for like a week or a weekend. But you're talking the year round. Things get pretty good here in Texas. I'll deal with a couple months of over 100 degrees. All right, so you guys out there, you got the sweep, and the schedule was a little bit different too. You played 2 games on Thursday, doubleheader action. 8-7 over BYU in the first one, 12-9 in the second game, and then played on Friday, 14-4, won that in 5 innings. And so initially it was scheduled for Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'm guessing you had some weather there?
Yep, we had weather. Very inconsistent and unexpected storms were supposed to happen Friday and Saturday. So initially we thought we would do a doubleheader on Thursday, not be able to play any game on Friday, and then play our third game on Saturday. And the weather pattern happened to be that it did, in fact, rain a good majority of Friday, but there were several hours where there was no rain. So the coaches agreed that we would try to play a game if we could. That way we don't have to sit around waiting until Saturday. And sure enough, the field was in condition that was playable and we were able to play. We were still delayed an hour. So original start time of that game, I believe, was 6 o'clock, and we ended up playing at 7. But we're able to get the game in. That was the coldest day though. So it was pretty cold and damp. So had a lot of exchanging of balls and that kind of stuff. But we were able to get it in, and we were able to get it in quickly with the 5-inning game, which was awesome. And then that made for a fun Saturday for the team. So they got to sleep in because we couldn't change the flights or anything like that. So they slept in, and we got to go on a scenic tour in the mountains, saw a beautiful waterfall. If you follow softball on Instagram, for sure. I'm not sure if it's also on our Facebook or X, but there's pictures of the team at the waterfall taking that in. It was beautiful. And then we had a nice meal at Cheesecake Factory to celebrate the sweep. And then we were back to Texas. So it ended up working out well, but don't love having to do double headers, but glad that we were able to get all 3 games in, because that's what's most important. And we weren't certain at the beginning of our trip if that would be our reality.
You know, Corey, I text you on Saturday, no response. I'm kidding.
Oh,
you might have been up there in the
man.
mountains. You were living life, so I don't know that you were responding to me.
I have to be better, Justin. My bad.
We're on different time zones too. I was on the East Coast, which once again we've talked about time zones before. Central and Europe, Mountainside. In terms of softball, though, man, these 3 wins they're coming big. You know, you think about right now on a 6-game winning streak in conference play, 3-game winning streak overall. 11-13 in Big 12 play, now 28-19 on the season. Tied with Kansas right now for 4th place in the Big 12 at 11-13. Got Houston this weekend. An opportunity for Baylor to get over 500 in Big 12 play, and also another chance to get over 30 wins on the season. I know both those numbers are things that Glenn Moore is looking at right now.
They absolutely are. And we ironically enough, we're talking about it during our lunch on Saturday, but it's important for the team to finish the conference schedule strong. And we have an opportunity to do that at home against Houston, which is awesome to be able to end conference in your home ballpark. So that's huge. And then as you start to play with the numbers, and I love you for your stats, Justin, because you just rattled them off. But as you start to play with the numbers, being able to win out in those 3 games. Now, we don't know what Kansas is going to do this weekend, but being able to win out in those 3 games puts us in a good position when you look at Big 12 tournament and the seeding within that tournament and when we can play, because a huge piece for us right now is making sure that we have rest and trying to manage that so that we can have success in conference, but more importantly, in my opinion, so we can have success postseason. And playing later in the conference tournament provides us some additional rest, which I think will be critical, versus having to play earlier and win more games to progress in the conference tournament. So my hope is that our team shows up this weekend and we can get yet another sweep. It'll put us above 500 in the conference. It'll put us above the 30 wins, as you mentioned, and it'll send us off on the right note. I mean, you talk about senior day that Sunday as well. Like, let's send the seniors out in a good way for regular season and position us well for postseason. So coaches definitely look at the numbers, but he's encouraging the team to take it a game at a time, an inning at a time, a play at a time. And as we do the little things right, those little things will add up to us having successes at the end. So that's the focus right now, is trying to keep them focused on what's directly ahead of us. And the coaches can worry about that other stuff and help us navigate as we progress. But it's fun times. This is where it gets interesting as we get towards the end of the regular season and start preparing for postseason. And as we talked about for a lot of our other sports teams, this is where it gets fun. This is where competition just kicks it up a little notch and intensifies. And you're hoping that the teams are peaking at the right time, and we have all of the pieces. And our hope is that they continue to put those pieces together so that we can have success.
Well, if Coach Moore needs some stats, okay, if he does, I got him covered.
You're the guy.
Katie Gilmore does a great job with athletic communications, but I just love numbers. It just, certain things you like, and I don't like. I don't like to read, but I do like
Good
numbers.
numbers.
So they're a little bit different. They're easier on my mind. But okay, all right. So moving over from softball, and by the way,
Mhm.
softball 18 in the RPI. So moving,
Moving on up.
yeah, still
Remember,
hanging on.
listeners, top 16 hosts.
Yeah, so
Fingers
still an
crossed.
opportunity with a run here. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens with softball. Over on the baseball side, they went up against the juggernaut, West Virginia, top 25
Mhm.
in America, and West Virginia got the best of the Bears over the weekend in Morgantown. They swept Baylor. West Virginia now 26-16 on the season, 14-7. And Baylor, they dropped to 19-23 overall, 9-12 in Big 12 play. They're right now tied for ninth place with UCF. UCF, that's important because we do play UCF here at home in a few
Mm.
weeks. But the 10th place team, or check that, the 11th place team, TCU, they're 10-14, and that's an upcoming series this weekend, Corey. And there's 13 teams in the Big 12 that play baseball. Next year, there'll be
Mhm.
14. Colorado, Iowa State, they do not play any baseball. And so, yeah, we're going to have to be top 10 to make the Big 12 tournament. So the series this weekend against TCU really looming large where you control your own destiny. But the positive
Mhm.
is you got them at home.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of what we just talked about with softball. The positive is you get to play those games at home, and each game we're at the stretch of the season for baseball where every game matters. Now all games matter. We know that, listeners, but as you get to this point in the season, you have you have the opportunity to control your destiny. Is exactly what you mentioned, Justin, and that's so true. And what I love about Coach Thompson and what he's doing is that you're seeing some significant progress. They've battled injuries. They've had a lot of things that they've had come up against them, and Coach is still finding a way for the team to have success. And I think we'll continue to see that. Yes, there'll be some challenges, but they've risen to the occasion in many ways. And there's a good amount of season that's still left where they can position themselves well to make the conference tournament. So I'm looking forward to this weekend for baseball for sure, because it's a good opportunity for them to get 3 dubs. You mentioned that they bring UCF in a couple weeks to later in the season, so they'll have the opportunity there to position themselves with the home crowd behind them. So I don't I don't think that you can look at the team and say, man, I don't know if they're going to make it. No, there's a great opportunity ahead for our baseball program, and they're well positioned right now to make a run. And I know coach is getting them ready to do that. So it starts this weekend with TCU, which will be exciting, and hopefully both ballparks, right, will have some great success this weekend, and we'll have a lot to celebrate when we talk next week.
All right, Corey, appreciate you hopping on. I know you got to run, and looking forward to talking here in a couple days with you.
Sounds good, Justin. Thank you.
All right, that's Corey Bolts. And, when you look at the weekend ahead for baseball and softball, going to be a lot of fun. These two teams going here in Waco and hoping for good weather. I know some of the weather has been a little rough in terms of the forecast. And so we're hoping for good weather this weekend because that can definitely challenge the plans for the weekend for the Baylor Bears. All right, let's get to some tennis. And obviously a big, Baylor, big tennis school, has had great history in tennis. And that history continues. Baylor men's tennis receiving its 26th NCAA tournament bid on Monday. Very impressive for this team. They were the 40th ranked team in the country, and they have a short trip to College Station, Texas, just down the way. They're going to take on San Diego. And San Diego, they're a very, very good team. 22-3 on the season. Baylor 18-11, and they'll match up on Friday at the Mitchell Tennis Center at Texas A&M. Texas A&M, they take on Rice, and so the Bears looking to get the victory over San Diego. Then hopefully we'll see who they face, Texas A&M and Rice. But definitely a challenge ahead for Baylor. San Diego, they were a team that was right on the outside of hosting. You look at some of their rankings, and we'll pull them up here. Baylor 40th, but San Diego 18th, and Texas A&M was 17th. So you're talking about A&M just outside of the hosting as far as rankings, but they get the nod to host, and San Diego just on the outside of hosting there as well. 18th, and then Baylor 40th. So Baylor will be looking for the upset, to pull off the upset against San Diego. But we know this Baylor team is equipped to do that and then hopefully take on Texas A&M in that second round. 26th straight appearance. I mean, that right there is a level of consistency that not many programs have across the country. And for this program just to continue year after year, changes in players, changes in coaching staff. They've had a few of those over the years. Just continue to get into the big dance. And so really impressive for that team. Of course, the NCAA championships this year are going to be held in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And next year, of course, coming to Waco, Texas, back here again. It was about 10 years ago that we saw the tournament hosted here in Waco. So looking forward to that next year. When we talk about being in Stillwater, it's really ironic in a way because of how well Oklahoma State women have played this season. Undefeated, the number 1 seed over on the women's side. And for Baylor women's tennis, they're also in the NCAA tournament for a 25th NCAA tournament, 18th tournament under Coach Joey Scrivano, and number 35. So ranked just a little bit in front of the men there, number 35 compared to number 40. They will take on number 31 LSU. Baylor on the women's side, 17-12 overall, and LSU 15-10 overall out of the SEC. They're heading out to Palo Alto, Stanford, one of the top collegiate tennis programs in the country on the women's side. They are the number 2 seeded team, number 3 ranked. They're going to take on UMass. The winners will advance into the regional final on Saturday. So first round matchups there going on Friday. So both teams, tennis, a lot of action over the weekend coming up on Friday and Saturday on both sides. And looking forward to that coming up this weekend. Also looking forward to Jeremy Roach. He'll be with us tomorrow on the podcast. Of course, the newest member of the Baylor men's basketball team, the do everything guard. And so I know our guys over on social media said he's a veteran playmaker from the Baylor men's basketball account when he officially got signed here in the last couple days. And that's a guy that's going to be a great piece for Baylor. I was looking at some of the stats before we get into the interview tomorrow. You're talking about a guy who's played 130 career games. And so you think about what a great season could look like next year. Of course, this is a guy who's been to a Final Four as well. He was a former five-star All-American, McDonald's 5-star All-American from the Washington, D.C. area. This is the type of guy that, hey, he could be playing 170 games before it's all said and done. And so Baylor, I know they have some few pieces, obviously, with the coaching staff to replace and to fix, and also with the roster. But when you think about a guy like Jeremy Roach coming from Duke, first transfer from Duke, I would have to say, coming to our men's basketball program. And so really going from a blue blood to a new blood, and just really excited to talk to Jeremy. Great guy. And I think he's going to fit in like a glove here, quite honestly. And, I was listening to some interviews. He had talked about Duke, that he was part of their family forever, and he'll be just that here at Baylor. And so looking forward to talking to him about that and why he chose Baylor, and also just the pedigree for point guards and for guards really all around for Scott Drew and everything they've done. And also, what it was like to play against this team back in December at Madison Square Garden, what he saw from them and what he can bring to the table now, because he's going to be putting that blue behind him and thinking all about the green and gold coming next year for Baylor men's basketball. So looking forward to that conversation, looking forward to both the tennis teams getting in action once again. Baylor men's tennis, they are going to Texas A&M on Friday, and the women's tennis, they're going out to Stanford for the weekend. That'll do it for today's edition of Inside Baylor Sports, a Sport and Story production. Thanks for listening. For Corey Bolts, I'm Justin Hoff. Have a great Tuesday, and Sick 'em Bears.